Hello everyone, I'm Star and welcome back to another Don't Starve video. This time I am here with a guide that was specifically made for beginners. Beginners so often do not understand the complex inner workings of the game, which is no surprise as Klei did intend it to be an unforgiving survival experience. However, I still believe a little change around the workings of reality can add a pleasant twist to the game. I decided to give 3 tips about the game to facilitate the experience for new players. I will then explain these 3 tips in greater detail after, well, listing them. First, acquire knowledge. Second, download mods. Third, alter the world generation. So, the first step is to acquire knowledge. Let's get into that. First, of course, we need to talk about a way to acquire knowledge about the constant. By the way, the constant is the name of the dimension in which Don't Starve takes place. I believe there are 2 main sources of Don't Starve knowledge acquisition, which are very good to use. First, of course, watching guides on the internet, and second, checking the Don't Starve Wikipedias, or wikis. First, let's talk about the perhaps easier one, which is watching videos. It requires less effort than reading, so it's probably the go-to choice for most. If you write Don't Starve beginner guide into just the YouTube search engine, you should find plenty of videos, fortunately. I personally recommend 2 channels specifically, called The Beard777 and James Bucket. Of course, I understand that there may have been some strange controversies with the Beard, like he got his art via art competitions instead of commissioning someone, or he makes videos specifically long for ad revenue, but still the quality of his guides are very useful and his community is very friendly, so I'd still say his videos are of great use to beginners. The second way of acquiring knowledge is by reading entries in Don't Starve wikis. I show you an image of 2 sites which are worth to show. Okay. In my opinion, the lower one is easier to navigate, so that may be my go-to version of the Don't Starve wiki. However, the upper one is still being recently updated with Don't Starve Together data. If I'm correct, the lower one may not be, but it's lower in position, not quality, of course. So I'd choose to read the entries on the one which is below the other one in position, but both are of great use. For now, though, reading about Don't Starve Together is not that important anyways, as we're talking about single player, and it may just get jumbled up in the minds of a beginner. First, let's focus on one thing. Okay, let's focus on the next thing now. Most guides simply tell the player how to survive in the unforgiving wilderness that is the world of Don't Starve, but there is so much more to it. Just because one knows how the world works, that doesn't mean that they are ready to fight against it. It's like being lost in a nation far away from your own without preparation. I believe the best way to enjoy Don't Starve with zero experience is to take example of the Queen of Hearts. As she controls the environment in her cricket match in order to win, players can alter the very fabric of Don't Starve with mods and world generation settings to overcome obstacles. After all, Klei themselves said, "Your world, your rules." Actually, just check the Don't Starve world generation, and when you change something, it will be written there that your world, your rules. Klei, by the way, is the developer team which created Don't Starve. So please let me talk about some of the mods I recommend to new players, or no, to all players actually, that will be categorized specifically. I decided to separate them into 4 different categories. Give me a moment. Yes, so first, must-have mods. These are mods which every single Don't Starve player should have, in my opinion. Should have mods. There are mods which are not incredibly necessary to playing, but are still worth having and I recommend them. May have mods. These mods are some nice additions to the game, though their presence is more of a pleasant upgrade than a necessity. And then the 4th category is the category of beginner mods. These are mods which are completely unnecessary for non-beginners, but are of great use for absolute beginners. So I guess if you are watching this guide, then you're probably an absolute beginner, and then all 4 categories of mods will be of great use to you. So let's get into each and every mod and talk about them, I guess. Okay, now we are here in the game. This is how the main menu should look like to you if you have downloaded all of the DLCs, which I highly recommend. Every single DLC of single player adds a new interesting twist and flavor to Don't Starve, so having all of them is very useful. And during sales, such as a Christmas sale, or there may be a sale right now, you can get them for a very good price. So let's enable the mods right now, or well, talk about the mods. It's a bit of a jumble, but then let's start now, I guess. I'll talk about each and every mod. First, let's talk about the must-have mods. The first mod on our list is Combined Status. Give me a moment please. Here. It is a mod which displays health, hunger, sanity, temperature, seasons, moon phases, and the world day even inside the caves. It was created by Rezesib, Kyofo, and Soil Worker. It is compatible with everything. When you have mods, by the way, watch out what is compatible with what, because some DLCs may make mods function badly. This mod can be configured, and these are some things I like having on, but you can have any sort of combination. For example, it shows the moon phase, or different game units, and the world's temperature, and different stat numbers, the cave clock. This is how I like playing. Okay. The second mod on our list is Compromising Survival. It is the most important must-have mod. By the way, I'm talking about the must-have mods. So, this is the most important mod which should be on every single person's Don't Starve list. It was created by a player called Simplex, and it can also be configured. This allows you to respawn. All should be set to yes. This way, whenever you fall, It asks whether you truly want to end the game or you want to respawn. You can either respawn at camp, like how you respawn in bed in a Minecraft world, a survival Minecraft world, or you can reload save, like how you do in Undertale. This way you will not lose your entire world, but only a few moments of progress. This special move also allows you to respawn right on the spot, which is of great use if you really had enough of ancient pig ruins in Hamlet. But right now let's talk about Reign of Giants for now. Okay, next mod on the list. Our next mod on the list is called Display Food Values, and it is also of great use. It shows how much food restores of health, sanity and hunger, or takes. Unfortunately, there are some foods which give and take certain things. For example, monster meat takes a lot of sanity, especially when raw, and also a lot of health. This is what I recommend, I guess. And of course, it was created by Alx. Very cool mod, also a must-have. The next mod I want to talk to you about is Health Info Plus. It was created by Sun, I guess, but the O is a 0. I'm not sure how to pronounce every name. And it shows the amount of health a creature has, which is very, very useful. That's why I also put it to the must-have section among the mods. The next mod I'd like to introduce to you is Smart Crockpot. Also an important thing, this mod here is a horror mod which was created by the official team. Don't enable it because we don't need horror. That just turns the world upside down and creates horror, so don't have that. What you should have though is Smart Crockpot. By the way, the other mods are just fun characters I've seen others play. Just ignore those two. So Smart Crockpot by Evil. It predicts your cooking. Thus, if you add some food items to your crockpot and click predict, then it will tell you what sort of food will be created, and so you will not need to worry about guessing. Or if you accidentally would create food that should not exist and thus becomes wet goop instead of an actual food, that can also be caught in time. It's a very useful mod, so I also put it to the must section. The last mod I put into the must-have section is a mod called, give me a second, More Save Slots, but more is written like M-O-A-R. It was created by Dustin Potter, aka If3, and it's compatible with everything. Give me a moment. Did I tell you the Smart Crockpot's creator? Yes, Evil. Okay then. The creators need to be credited. Got any more of them save slots? This increases the amount of save slots. Please allow me to simply just show you. Normally you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots in a normal every DLC enabled game. However, this way you can have much more. This is also a must-have because that way you can create an infinite amount of saves, which is very useful. So that should also be enabled. So our next mods on the list are the should-have mods, or rather I put one mod into this category. The mod is called, give me a second, Realistic Placement, and I'll quickly find it to you, or well, for you. A moment please. Yep, things take a long time, so don't be scared of that. It's just, yeah, it takes time, but it's not like the game is falling apart. So, what was the name of the mod again that I put there? Realistic placement, yes. It allows you to place buildings closer to each other, which is very useful. It is very good when used together with geometric placement, which is the next mod I'll be talking about. But before we skip, of course, it was created by Dr. Blood. It's always important to credit the creators. Okay, now onto the mods which are in the may have category. Another neat little mod which is useful is too many items. This is more for experimentation than actual playing. It was created by CJB, and with T you can open a spawn menu, which then you can cancel, which allows you to spawn in any item. Of course that would be cheating, and that is something which I advise you not to do in your world, though it's your world, your rules, but still, it is more for experimentation if you want to create an other alternate world and experiment around what you can and cannot do, so then you can try out what works in your real world where you don't cheat. So I guess it's a neat little mod. A moment please, I'll show you how it works in game. Okay, now we're back to the game. Also, I disabled sound, that's why it doesn't sound like anything. First we press the letter T, it pauses the game, and so we can spawn things. I believe I'll just spawn a gold nugget, 4 logs, and 4 rocks. Then I'll pick these up, and that way I can craft a science machine, which is useful. Look, these little plus symbols show you where you can place the science machine, and this way you can place it more geometrically. That's geometric placement, by the way. With E and Q you can rotate the world around, by the way, and realistic placement allows you to place science machines incredibly close to each other, which would otherwise not be possible. So thank you for your work, Wilson. This way you can quit, and now let's move on to the next mod, I guess. The last mod on my list is a mod called Apocalypse Manager. You may ask what Apocalypse is. It is exclusive to Don't Starve Hamlet, but for now we'll talk about Reign of Giants, not about the Seaworthy, the Skyworthy, the complex workings of DLCs. Now let's just stay with the base game and Reign of Giants. Yes, Apocalypse Manager. If this is enabled, then this can turn the Apocalypse on and off, which is very useful for Hamlet players, which will be explained later in a different guide perhaps. This way it's infinite. I don't know what this does. This way it takes sanity when used, and you can craft it with any amount of things. For example, it can simply cost 1 gold nugget. That way it will be very cheap. And so you don't need to worry about the Apocalypse. It is not meant for beginners who have nothing to do with Hamlet yet, but it's such an important mod that I still put it into the category. It's in fact probably a must-have for those who are beginners and want to really play Hamlet, which is personally my favorite DLC, by the way. And with that, we have been over with these 3 main categories of mods, and we can move on to the mods which I specifically recommend for beginners. The first mod I specifically recommend for beginners, which pros probably do not need, but beginners still very much appreciate, I believe, is called Better Icebox. It had been created by Vetros, and it slows down the time it takes for food to perish. Normally, in an icebox, everything lasts twice as long. You can either make it quicker, but why would you? You can slow down how quickly food spoils. This way, Icebox completely stops the spoilage of foods, and this way it even refreshes, which means you don't need to worry about food spoiling, as this way you can just simply have them have you can just simply stockpile food infinitely as long as you have an infinite amount of ice boxes, which is very, very cool. By the way, a joke about the Apocalypse Manager. I want to talk to the Apocalypse Manager, says an entitled customer trapped in DST. Or Don't Starve single player, DST is taught together. So, whatever. These rest of the mods are just random stuff. I would have gladly used a mod which prevents spoilage completely, but that, even when I started playing, messed around with the game itself, so unfortunately I don't recommend this mod because it messes around with some foods and don't allow you to get some stuff, so it's better to just have a food stay infinitely in an icebox. Okay, next mod. The next mod specifically recommended for beginners is Infinite Torches. This allows torches to stay there infinitely. It was created by Lelo Dude, I believe, or well, that I hope this is how Lelo is pronounced. And so this makes torches infinite. I would have gladly recommended a mod called Infinite Lighting, but unfortunately that does not work anymore. So we will need to just have torches. Other light sources will be better than torches, but those will not be infinite. But with this mod, players will not need to worry about the darkness destroying them, because this way torches are infinite. And before pros start complaining darkness should be hostile and torches shouldn't be infinite, look, this was specifically made for beginners, not for those who have already mastered the game. Let's be a little patient with those who are still at the beginning of their Don't Starve journey. Thank you. So, let's now jump to the next mod. Alright. The next mod is called No Fire Spread. It was created by someone whose name unfortunately I cannot read, as I don't understand these characters, though I believe it may be Chinese. I know Don't Starve is very, very popular in China. If you understand, then you can perhaps give some sort of phonetic writing on how this name should be pronounced in the comments, if you want to. This mod disables the spreading of fire, so if something is set ablaze, you will not need to worry about your entire base burning down. However, this also this also makes players immune to fire damage, which may take away from the immersiveness of the game, but this way you can fight against fire, so it's still a rather neat mod for those who are beginners or have extremely bad luck with fire. Even lightning can set things on fire, or Willow. That's why it's the best to play as Wilson when you are a beginner. Other characters have strange gimmicks. Okay, to the next mod. The next mod that can be useful for beginners is Twig That Hunger. It was created by Dark Omega MK2, and it can change your hunger rate. Normally, you take what? No, not 100. Oh, wait, yes, it's percentage. You take 75 hunger every day, regardless of which character you play as, except if the character has a negative hunger modifier or positive. Though positive doesn't really exist. By that I mean every character which has a hunger modifier takes more hunger, but most characters don't have a hunger modifier. The point is, if you're playing as Wilson or most other characters, then you lose 75 hunger a day. If you set it to this 50%, that means you will lose 37.5 hunger, which is very useful, especially in Hamlet. You don't want to starve? Don't starve. This is the perfect way to do that. Okay. It's much harder to talk while improvising. I wrote down most of the speech I wrote, but I improvise while talking about the mods, and that makes it harder, so sorry if I'm not completely at the top. Okay, anyways, on to the last mod, I believe. Okay, the last mod we're going to talk about, the last one on this list, is called Extra Slots by, well, there is no name there. That's very weird. I guess it was made by Terence Hill, because Terence Hill had a movie called The Name's Nobody, or something similar, I believe. Whatever. It adds extra equip slots to the game. By the way, updated by Star, that is not me. I don't know how to create mods. So, it allows you to wear both armor, backpacks, and amulets. Many beginners complain that they cannot wear backpacks and armor at the same time, and I completely understand them. Though as a pro, I rather play, or well, I'm not a pro. I'm rather an intermediate player. As somebody who has some knowledge about the game, I'd rather play it closer to vanilla, but there is no shame in playing with this, it's very useful. I am not sure though how it reacts to the Vortex Cloak, which is both a backpack and an armor. But fortunately you don't need to worry about that, as the Vortex Cloak is a Hamlet exclusive item, which is gotten from the defeat of one of the hardest bosses in the entire game, the Ancient Herald, so you don't need to worry about that so far. You can play this. This is useful, you know. And also, in reality, I could wear armor, a backpack, and an amulet at the same time, so it's completely logical. And with that, we discussed every mod, so we can jump to the next topic, which I believe is world generation. I don't record everything at the same time, or well, no, give me a moment, please. Well, whatever. A moment. The last tip I'd like to give to you in this video is the creation of a standard Reign of Giants world. So let me show how it's created. We can delete the world, don't worry, the characters will survive. Game slot 1, this is how you delete a world. And this way you can create a world. The thing you choose here will determine which world you'll spawn in. This will make it Hamlet, this will make it Shipwrecked and everything. So the point is, well, now let's create a Reign of Giants world. You will click on this if you want to create a world. If you allow Shipwrecked compatibility, it will be allowed to travel to Shipwrecked and will have Shipwrecked items. If you allow Hamlet compatibility, then it will allow you to go to both Shipwrecked and Hamlet. So this is the best, because it may not be that interesting for now, but having your options is very, very, very useful. So, first we'll allow Hamlet, but create a Reign of Giant world. Then we'll select Wilson, because for a beginner, Wilson is the best character. And now we'll talk about the worlds. We can have different worlds and different presets, but it's the best to just keep it here for now. First, world size, branches and loops. I have absolutely no idea how these work, so just whatever, really. Just leave them at default. I recommend, however, you to change the seasons. Autumn is very, very useful, so it should be very long. When set to default, it will last 20 days. At long, it will last 30. And at very long, it will last 50 days. 50 days of autumn should be enough to allow a player to get ready for winter and the rest of the problems. Winter can be either short, which is 10 days, or very short. Normally it would be 16 days instead of 20. I recommend you to set it to short, because there are many resources and things you can acquire during winter, so it's a worth investment to keep it at short instead of very short. Spring, it has its problems with rain and frog rain and everything, but overall it's still useful, so I'd rather keep it at default at 20 days. Autumn and spring last 20 days, winter and summer last 16. Summer, however, is ultimately the worst season perhaps in the entire game, so it should be set to very short, 5 days. Every season is worth keeping, but it's still, this is what I recommend for absolute beginners, because this way they can worry less about time. Starting season, I recommend everyone to set it right to autumn. A moment please. Thank you. Even pros set it to autumn, because autumn should be the starting season. Anyways, the day type can be multiple things. However, I recommend starters in Reign of Giants worlds to make it long day. That way the day will be incredibly long compared to the dusk and the night. Some people may be inclined to just disable the night completely and set it to no night. However, I strongly recommend everybody to set it to long day instead, as there are many things that can be done only during night. For example, the best thing, Glommer, my favorite mob in the entire game, spawns only during full moons, and full moons only occur during nights. So in Shipwrecked and Reign of Giants, it's the best to keep it at long day. In Hamlet, no night is absolutely valid. Caves add a new extra to the game, and if you watched proper guides on them, then it's very useful to have them. So just keep them as long as you don't have a potato PC, but then probably all those mods would already cause a problem. Weather, this is pretty much rain, just set it to less. Rain is annoying. Lightning, you can set that to less too. Frog rain means frogs fall from the skies, and that is a rather annoying and angering thing, so I recommend you to just set that to none. Frogs also attack in teams, so if you attack one, then all of them will become hostile towards you. Otherwise, they may be more chill and just attack you whenever they feel like it. Mood. Whatever. Wildfires. During summer, wildfires randomly set some of your stuff ablaze, unless you get specifically prepared for that. Turn them to none. Even I turn them to none. This is something I'm not willing to put up with. This just sucks. Wildfires? Nope. Absolutely none. So, touchstones are things you can respawn with. I believe you can set them to more. Boons? Whatever. Flowers are good. You can set them to more. Grass, you can set it to more or keep it at default. Saplings. Spiky bushes, tumble. Carrots and berry bushes are good. You can set them to more. And I believe flint is also something you can set to more, while reeds, trees, rocks and mini glaciers can be kept at default. Mushrooms and cacti can either be set to more or kept at default, though both are useful. Remember also, red mushrooms take 20 health when raw and 10 sanity when cooked, so it's not worth to eat them outside of a crockpot dish. Blue mushrooms give 20 health but take 15 sanity when raw, and give 15 and give 10 sanity and take 3 health when cooked. So depending on what you need, you can consume them. And green mushrooms take 50 sanity, not 15, 50. Like that's 5 times 10, so a lot when raw, and when cooked give 15 sanity but take 1 health, so green mushrooms are very useful. Mandrakes are among the best items in the entire game, set them to lots. Rabbit holes, mole burrows, butterflies, birds, and buzzards, and catcoons, and gobblers, and pigs, and wild goats can all be set to normal, though butterflies may be set to more, it doesn't really matter that much. Beefaloes can get hostile during the time they are mating, however they are still useful, so it's the best to just keep them at normal. Hunts are helpful, however wargs are very hostile and not very useful, so just set them to less. Bengals, ponds, bees Kilbies and tallbirds or whatever. Another moment, please. Just keep them at normal, but give me a moment, please. Spiders may be scary, but they are incredibly useful resource-wise, so it's the best to keep them at default. Hounds spawn periodically. They may come in packs of less or more. However, eventually they'll reach a number and will stay that number regardless of what you picked. You either have some of them or none. However, hounds drop such important resources that I believe it's still worth to put up with them, so I believe just making it better in early game than fighting them in late game is useful. Hound's Tooth is an item that can be used to craft the sewing kit, which can repair items such as the umbrella, which is incredibly useful, so keeping hounds around is very useful. Though they can also spawn from hound mounts, so you don't instantly get rid of all the hound's teeth if you set them to none. However, I still prefer it to set them to less. These are hostile things, but I'd still keep them at normal. Or, well, meat bulbs, they are just annoying. Keep them at less or to none, it matters not. It's best to have your options, but they just spawn eye plants which destroy your items if you leave them lying around. Mechtusk, just let him be around. Tree guards, normal. Poison birchnut trees, you can set them to less. First, I really hope you know what these all mean, because that means you've probably watched guides about that, or you may have watched my entire guide now and then you'll watch guides. You will know what these mean. Crampi, all chill. Now these are the 4 seasonal giants. Set them to less and less. Except Deerclops. Look, Deerclops may be an incredibly hard monster to fight as a beginner, but their drop is the magical eye, which can be crafted into the umbrella. I think your world, your rules. It's written right here. Anyways, so Deerclops is something that unfortunately you will need to fight. Now we have created our beginner friendly world, and we'll hit apply. And now, yep, the world. Here, perfect. And now we can create our reality and see for ourselves what we have created. Also, once again, the sound is not here because I got rid of it. This guy, you'll know who he is later. Here, this is Maxwell. Say, pal, you don't look so good. You'd better find something to eat before night comes. What a meanie. Okay. See, there are more grass. Yeah, you can move around with the mouse if you click on some things. You can pick saplings, and this is the world that you can go through. More bushes, more things. Oh, I remember that back then when I started playing in late 2019, early 2020, I got it for 2019's Christmas. Then, Don't Starve, I got Don't Starve. When I when I set things to more or lots, then they just spawned everywhere. Unfortunately, mandrakes, even when set to lots, are still rare, which is a shame. It was very funny that mandrakes spawned everywhere. Anyways, these are the different things. Mandrake. Otherwise you'll get like 3 in the world. But anyways, long day, autumn. It's a very, very player friendly world, so for now we can just save and quit. Okay, I believe this was kinda all of it, but I still have some things to say to you, though these are less of tips and more just encouragement or philosophical things about the matter of gaming. So you can listen to me yap or click on a new video. After all, time is very costly, so I won't get offended if you click away, but I appreciate if you still listen to me. Okay. I hope this guide was helpful to you, dear beginner, and the world of Don't Starve shall watch your career with great interest. Now I talk to all the pros and purists out there. Don't get angry that some players need more help to survive than you. To you, Don't Starve may be about the struggle and the hardships, but as long as one has acquired the game legitimately, it is ultimately their choice how to play it. Like, don't pirate it and then we can chill. Don't Starve is an indie game, we don't pirate indie games here. Um, After all, uh, now back to the fun part. After all, if one doesn't have fun, was the game even worth playing? There is nothing wrong with making the game easier in the beginning than letting it get more and more difficult. So please, to the beginners, believe me, you'll almost certainly get bored of easy mode eventually, and then you'll make things in the settings more difficult, and you'll stop using more and more beginner mods. And eventually, one day, you'll be able to survive the constant like a seasoned player. There is nothing wrong with not being pros at the beginning, or with altering the game to be more enjoyable. The thing that matters is to have fun. What matters is to enjoy playing, as that is what games are for, after all. There is nothing wrong with making the game easier. Just enjoy it. Go out there and enjoy playing Don't Starve, because that is what video games were made for. To entertain, to bring joy. So dear players, I hope I could give you an enjoyable and an at least somewhat coherent guide, and I wish you to have a great day. Hopefully see you in the next one. Take care, and don't starve.